Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel Basico ServiceNow Learning. So in today's video, we are going to implement ServiceNow date validation scenarios. There are various ServiceNow date validation scenarios which we received while doing development. Right, we received lots of stories for date validations. So in this video, we are going to implement the same. We are going to implement through client script by using simple JavaScript. We are not going to use script include or glide Ajax because there are lots of ways. People use those ways also to implement. But in this video, we are going to use a simple JavaScript to implement a various date validation scenarios. So let's see what are all those scenarios which we are going to implement today. So the first scenario is that we have to populate the current date in the start date field using client script. So let me give you an example of that first. Here we have a personal development instance where we have two fields in an incident record, that is start date and the end date. So when the page loads, then this start date will get auto populated with the current date. Okay, so this is required. We are not going to populate it manually. This will get auto populated. Okay, now the another scenario is end date should not be greater than the start date, which says that user should not able to enter the end date which is smaller than the start date. He can only enter the date, let's say 11, 12, 13, because today is 10th of September. And the third scenario is that user should only able to enter end date which comes between today and till coming 10 days. For example, today is 10th of September, then user can only enter the date which comes between 10 till 20. Means if user enter 21, then it will not allow to user enter the date. If user enter 9, then it will not allow user to enter the date. User can only enter the date till 10 till 20. And vice versa. Let's say if today is 15, then user can only enter the date till 15 to 25. So let me give you an example of the same. So today is 10th of September. So if user enter the date, let's say 8 in end date, then it will give him a alert message and not allowed to enter him that date. If user, let's say, enter the date 16, then 16 comes under range. It means user can enter it. And if user is entering, let's say 30, then it will not allow him because it not comes under the range of 10 days. Okay, so this is the scenarios which we are going to implement today. And the last scenario is user should not able to enter the end date which is greater than today or less than the 5 days, which says that today is 10, then user can only enter 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Okay, he cannot enter 2 or 1. Okay, so these are two different date ranges which can be extended to like 90 days, 60 days, 4 months, 5 months. Okay, 15 days, 25 days, that depends on. The only fact is that we have to only change the conditions while implementing the same. So let's see how we can implement it in ServiceNow instance. So let's navigate to our personal ServiceNow development instance. So friend, this is my ServiceNow personal development instance. So I am going to implement these scenarios in incident record. So earlier which I demonstrated, that was a different instance. So for demonstration perspective, I have displayed the same. So here in incident management or incident record, we are going to implement this same scenario. So here I have created two fields, that is start date and end date. So if you are using a personal development instance, you might be not having these fields. So create these two custom fields in your incident form. So this start date field name is u_start date and this end date field name is u_end date. So in case if you are implementing for your application, so what you have to do while doing a coding or while implementing the same logic, you have to change the field name. So we are going to implement the first scenario first, that is get current date in start date field. Means when we load the page, then this start date will get auto populated with the current date. So let's start for a client script, or let's write a client script. Type client script over here, open this in a new tab, or you can also right click over here, go to configure and go to client scripts. Okay, that depends on you. So just I am navigating there, I am clicking on a new button. So give some name, let's say get current date, or for better understanding, let's say populate current date. Okay, table is incident. then we have to select the type. So we want that on onload. So I'm selecting onload. I've selected onload. Now here I have to write the syntax or code. So as I said earlier that we are going to use a plain JavaScript for the same. So in JavaScript we have a way to get the current date, that is where start JavaScript date. Okay, so this is basically the object name which I am giving over here. You can give any name over here. So for understanding, I have given the name with JS, which says whatever date we are getting over here, the start date is coming from the JavaScript. So I'm saying new date. So this is the syntax which gives us start date, or we can say current date. So let me give you an example first that how exactly the date look like, because it is required. Okay. So alert and save. I'm not populating the date in start date field right now. I'm just popping up the value. So just reload the page again, the incident page, the incident record. Once we reload, see we have an alert message. So this is the date which is given by the JavaScript. That syntax. Okay. So this is the different format. Okay. Let me populate this format first over here. So this is the format which we received. Okay, and the format which we need to populate over here is, see, the date field, let's say 10. So this is the format which we need to populate. So these are two different format, which says that we need to convert this particular JavaScript date to this format, that is in ServiceNow format. Okay, so this is required to do here. So for that we have to write a code to change the format. So let's see how we can change it. Because if we don't change it, then this particular date in this format will not be acceptable over here, right? So let's see how we can populate. So in Java we have different functions to get those values. Let's say to getting this JavaScript we had get full year. That function we have to use. For month we have to use get month, and for date we can use get. So let's see how we can use the same. So for understanding perspective, this time I am giving the name as and date. Okay, so because whatever date we are creating over here, that is ServiceNow compatible, right? So that's why I have given the name start as and date. Here is JavaScript. That's why I have given the date start JS date. So here let's say new date dot get full year. Okay, so this full year gives us this year. Okay, now I need this dash. So let me give this dash over here. Now I need the month. So the same way for getting the month, that is new date dot get month. Okay, so this will give me a month, but here is a catch. In JavaScript, when we get the values of month, that comes between 0 to 11. Okay, if the month is December and if we are getting the value 11 over here, then it will not be compatible with our requirement, right? So what we have to do, we have to add 1. Let's say if we are working for a January, okay, so January will give me a value through this code is 0. Okay, but we required 1, so it will give me a 1. For December it will return me a value that is 11 plus 1 12. So we are fulfilling our requirement. Okay, so now the another thing is that here we have a 0, but we are only getting a value like 1. So 1 is not containing a 0 in the string. So what we going to do here is that we'll also add a 0 over here in a string. Okay, now the another thing is that if we working on this month, let's say 10, okay, and then 0, then it will fetch me a value 0 1 0. Okay, so which is also not acceptable. It means we have to slice the value which is coming from here. Means slice means, let's say we have 0 1 0, then we can slice it to 0 1. So in JavaScript we have a slice method through which we can slice the values also. Okay, so let me put in braces first these all the details. Okay, dot, then this is slice. So let me slice it to -2, which says that from the right hand side it will take two values, that is 0 1, and will slice all the values which comes after 2. So start from the right hand side to the left hand side. In this way we are getting the month. Now same we have to do for this date, right? The string. So let's add the string. Now same we have to do for a month, but for month we will not use +1 or something, because in month JavaScript function will give me the same value. Let's say if today is 10, it will give me 10. If any other date, let's say 15, then on 15 it will give me a 15. So we are not going to add 1 over there. Okay, so same way basis, but we need 0 because we have date from 1 to 9, where we need, let's say today is 9, then we must be having 09 over here. Okay, so the same we are getting over here, plus new date dot get date. Okay, so this is the way to get the date in JavaScript. This function is used to get it. Okay, get month or get date and get full year. Again we have to slice it. For example, if the date is 10, then it will come to 010, then it will be difficult for us, right? So if we are slicing the same way, -2, and here we have the syntax. Now the date which we have over here is ServiceNow dates. Let's see the alert of it. Let's save it. Let's reload the page first. So first is the date of the alert of JavaScript, and we did not get the second date. Let's see why. Okay, so let's see what we missed over here. Okay, here we missed this basis. Okay, sometimes it happens, right? While writing the code we miss something. Okay, and here we put this in this. Okay, now let's see, here we miss something, because whenever we are adding two strings or making in this way, then sometimes it happens. Then we have the 0. Okay, here we did it wrong. We have to put this brace over here, because we are slicing the complete value. If we made braces over here, it will not do it. Let's save it and let's see if it works. Let me load the page again. So this is JavaScript date in that format, and see, now we have changed it to our required format, right? See, 10/9/2021. When the outcomes, or we can say when the result comes what we require, then it gives happiness. Okay, so here we are done with this. So let's remove this alert because we don't need that now. What we need, that we have to populate that field, and in JavaScript ServiceNow we have a way to populate the field. So the way is g_form dot set value. We have to give field name over here. So the field name is u_start date, right? As we have discussed earlier, there we have two fields, that is start and end date, and the name is u_start date and u_end date. So the value will be ServiceNow date, start as end date, and see. So what happens when the page loads, then it will populate this value in this field. Let's see, save it. Let's load the page. See, auto populated. Okay, so in this way, by using a simple JavaScript code, we can populate the current date. Okay, the only thing is that we should know that how to do that by using this syntax. Okay, this is a very simple syntax. While implementing the other scenarios, we are going to use this also. Okay, now the another scenario which we are going to implement, that is end date should not be greater than the start date. Okay, so here we are talking about two fields, the start date and the end date. Start date is auto populated, right? Now we have to apply a validation on end date. It means we have to write the on change client script. Means when the user is entering the end date, then it will give a validation to him in case if he is putting up a wrong date. So let's get another client script. Click new. let me give and date validation as a name. Here I am giving the table name. Now we want to execute that on change on what field? On and date field. Okay, so here we have a section where we can write the code. So let's come over the page. See, here we already have a format. If we are selecting the end date which says, let's say 10, so this is also in the ServiceNow format which says we don't need to arrange it in a required format as we did in here. Okay, so this is a very simple way. I believe you guys know that. Okay, just for understanding I am just repeating it again, that I am saying g_form dot get value, whatever value we have in the start date field. Okay, let me populate it in a variable, that is I send start as an date. Okay, now again is and sn date, that is g_form that get value, and I am just fetching the value from that field, that is u_and_date. Okay, now what we have to do, we only have to write a condition over there. Let's say if start and date is greater than okay, then it will not allow user to do that, or start, let me copy the same and let me put this here. So the another condition is that we cannot fill the same date as start date. So in case if start date is equal to end date, then populate the validation message to user or give him an alert, or if start date is greater than the end date, then give an alert to him. Okay, let me complete this basis first and put up some alert message into it. Let's say alert. The message should be do not enter the date, right? So message can be end date should be greater than of the start date, and here we can say after giving the alert that we have to normalize this value, that is set value, that is end date u_and_date to blank. This is required, right? Otherwise what is the need of validation then if we are not making changes on the field? So here we are done with the code, we are done with the condition. Let's save it. So let's go to incident form, reload it again, leave. So once we reload it again, start date will get auto populated as we have written the code earlier on load. Let's say end date. See, if I select 8, end date should be greater than the start date. If I select the current date, that is 10, end date should be greater than of a start date. If I select the date which is greater than 10, then I'm saying 12. See, it allows me to enter this date. So in this way we can apply a simple validation for start date and the end date. Now the another scenario is that user should only able to enter end date which comes between 10 to 20, because today is 10, okay, then 20. So we have to now write a code which will validate till 10 days. So this is a specific scenario which we get most of the times, like put a validation of 90 days, put a validation of 60 days, put a validation of a month. Okay, so this is a required scenario. Let's see how we can implement the same in ServiceNow using JavaScript. So let's navigate to ServiceNow instance. So this is the same, the on change. What we are going to do, we already did this scenario, so just I'm deleting it. Okay, now I'm writing a fresh code because the same we are going to implement it on end date, that user will not able to enter date 22, 30 or the past date like 7. Okay, so here let's start coding. So let's see how we can implement it. So the two thing here is that we have to fetch the value, then we have whatever value we are going to fetch from the AND date here is in ServiceNow format, right? Then we have to change that ServiceNow format into JavaScript format. Okay, earlier what we did, we changed the JavaScript format into ServiceNow. Now here what we are going to do, because user is manually putting up the value, right? So here we already having this format. So what we are going to do, we will change this format to JavaScript format. Okay, then we calculate the time difference, then we calculate a day difference in JavaScript, and then we apply the condition. So let's see how we can achieve it. So first, as I said earlier, that first we have to get the value of the AND date. So in this way we can get it. We all know that AND as an date equals to G underscore form dot get value. What field? U underscore and underscore date. Okay, so when user select the value, then which says whatever value user select will store in this variable. Okay, now we have to calculate that date with a current date. Let's say if user is entering a date which is less than that, then it will apply a validation. When user is entering the date which is less than or greater than the today date, it means we need a today date as well. So here for a fresh code, I am just again writing the code same we did for the start date. Okay, so here I am saying where start JavaScript date, okay, equals to new date this. So this means whatever start date, or I can say another word, today date. Okay, so today date is in JavaScript format, and end date whatever we are getting in a ServiceNow format. Okay, now what we have to do, we have to first convert this date in JavaScript format. Okay, so let's see how we can convert it. Where and JS date equals to, so let's so to convert here is in JavaScript format, that is new date, and whatever variable we are getting over here, put it here like this. Okay, so let me put up the alert message to display you in this copy and paste. This is JavaScript format. So let's again reload the page. And let's say and date, I am selecting 10. See, because we have written on change. So once we change the and date value, see earlier it will be giving me with the ServiceNow format. Now it is giving me in a JavaScript format. Okay, so see, this is a syntax to convert a ServiceNow date into a JavaScript date. So now we have two date, that is today, and the date which is selected by user. Okay, now we have to find out the difference, that is day difference, that the day is 4, 5, 6. What is the difference between the selected date and from the today onwards? So for that, what we have to do in ServiceNow, let's say while time difference equals to, okay, so how we can calculate a time difference? The time difference which we calculating actually in milliseconds. First we calculate a time difference in milliseconds, then we convert those milliseconds into days in JavaScript. Okay, so we have this and JS date for calculating perspective. So the conversion is done because we are using a JavaScript. So we cannot use ServiceNow things into it, right, while doing calculations, because it will only identify JavaScript things, right? So here we have used this date which is coming from the JavaScript. Then we are saying get time. So this function will give us a millisecond time, and calculating, I believe from 1970 there is a specific date in JavaScript from where the time gets calculated, because we need at least a point from where we can say okay, we are calculating the date, right? So here now this and date minus the today JavaScript date, I can say. So here I am saying, so this is get time. Okay, so what it did, whatever date we are going to select here, it will calculate the time difference. Whatever time is user selecting in the and date will manage the today date time and give us the millisecond, the difference millisecond. Let me give you a demo of it first. Alert time difference. Save it. Once we save it, let's reload the page. This one, sorry, it's a morning time, so sometimes you will be listening like shutter is opening or shuttering is down, people are going here and there. Okay, so let's select the end date 16. So see, once I select the 16, it calculated the time in a milliseconds. Okay, now we have a time in milliseconds, so we have to convert that time into into days. So how we can convert in day difference equals to, we have to use this time difference and should divide this time difference with some values. You have to learn these values. Okay, 60 into 60 into 1000. So we are 24 is basically hour, 60 is minute, 60 is second, and 1000 is required to do this. Okay, now we have written the formula. So let's see the day difference to check it. Let's see alert. I'm just again doing and doing. I believe this is not annoying you because I want to give you a complete understanding of a code, that why it is working like this or why we are doing like this. So then if you practice or you will write, then you can write it easily in your future. At least you will know that what exactly you want to do, because logic can be any, the days can be any, right? If you understand the logic, you can implement anything, right? So day difference here, just save it. Save it. Now let's say reload the page again. I am changing the condition over here to 16. See, it is giving me a 5.92 because it is calculating from 1970 to a specific time, right? So whatever time currently we have, he converted those milliseconds into days. So it means it is approx 6 days. Today is 10 and we have selected 16. Okay, let's say if we are selecting negative date, let's say 6, so it will give me a -4 days. So whenever we are writing a code for this, we will utilize that. Okay, so the logic is same for both, means for this and this. What we have to do, we only have to change the conditions. Okay, now we are done with the days also. So let's remove it. Let's allow the conditions. So condition can be, the first condition is, while doing that, let's see, if the selected end date is less than the current date, then it will give us an error message. And if the select date is greater than the time range, then it will give us a error message. So let's implement the first condition, that is, if today GS date and JS date. So we are not going to use this dates because these are JavaScript date. We are going to use this ServiceNow dates over here. Okay, but we don't have a current ServiceNow date, right? So what we have to do, we have to convert current or today's service JS date into a ServiceNow date. So how we can do it? The same way which we did here, right? Same way. So let's move here and convert it first. Let's say variable today sn date. Okay, earlier it was JavaScript date, now we are converting into sn date, equals to, copy this, as we already discussed about it. Okay, so copy this. So this, the date which we are going to compare is in ServiceNow format. The date which we are going to compare, we already have in ServiceNow format. So we are going to use this variable and this variable. So I'm saying if today sn date, copy this, is greater than and sn date, then it will give us a error message, right? So what will be the alert message? Here the alert message is, let's say, please select date ranges between today, right, till 10 upcoming days. Okay, so whatever I understand, I write this text, whatever you feel better, you can write that text. Okay, now again what we have to do, we have to make the alert. After giving alert, we should make the field this empty, right? So here again the underscore form dot set value, and here select this field here. Okay, so this is the first condition. Now the another condition is, this is basically for if somebody select the date which is less than today. Now another condition is the date range, so we have to use this day difference here. Let's see how we can write the condition for it. Let's say if this and SN date is greater than this today SN date, the first condition is this. Then what we have to do, we have to check, means and that day difference, this day, copy this, paste this, is greater than 10. Getting my point? Let me give you example of the same. First let me put the braces, because mostly I missed putting these braces, right? I did earlier. And copy this and paste it, which says if user select the date which is greater than the today's date, and if the day difference, the calculated day difference is more than 10, then do not allow user. Okay, so which automatically says if the day difference is less than 10, it allows the user to enter the date. Okay, let's save it. Let's reload the page again. Let's see. First condition, select the last date. No, it's not allowing me to do that. If I select 10, see, it allows me to do that. If I select 16, it allows me to do that. If I select 29, the date ranges is like 10 to 29 is 19 days. See, it is not allowing me to do that. So, okay, so we have implemented the third condition or third scenarios as well. Now the fourth is this, where we have to less than today till 5 days. So what we have to do, till here the code will be same, only you have to change the conditions. So guys, this is a task for you. Change the conditions, apply for yourself. In case if you feel any problem, then do comment us. Even though we have already posted all the code which we have written over here in our website, that is basicoservicenowlearning.in. I will also share the link below where you can get the code and you can try all the things by yourself. So guys, if you are looking for any solution or any ServiceNow validation logic, and if this video answers your question, then please do share and subscribe. Okay, and please like our video if you find that this video is helpful for you. Okay friends, so this is all for this video. Thank you. Bye bye. Take care. Have a nice day.